Hey everyone, welcome back to another project. So in this project, we'll be building a full stack to-do list tracker in React Native using the expo framework and the MongoDB as backend. So if you find this interesting, please hit the like button and also subscribe for more such content. So let's get started. So firstly, let's look into the demo of the application over here. So towards my right is the first screen that's being shown. Okay, so this is basically the home screen, and at the top we have three categories, that is all category, the work category, as well as the personal category. So depending upon whichever category our to-do is put into, we are going to show that particular to-dos over here. So by default our to-dos is in the all categories, as you can see. Okay, and after that we are going to show the pending to-dos for that particular day, right? So today is December 21st, so these two are the pending to-dos to be done. And if at all I press on this particular button, it automatically goes into the completed tasks. Okay, so as you can see, all these to-dos are previously completed, and with the help of the plus button over here, we can add one more to-do to our list. So over here we can add it manually, or we have given some options over here, some suggestions which you could take and add it. So I'm going to choose this one, and I'm going to press in the send button, so this to-do gets added into the list. So let's give that a try. So as you can see, that to-do is particularly added into the list. So now let's move on to the next tab, that is the network tab. So here basically we're going to have the calendar, and here we're going to show the completed tasks for that particular day. So currently 21st December is selected, that is today. So currently we have 0 completed tasks over here. So let's move on to the next one, that is 20th. So as you can see, 2 tasks were completed on 20th. So we are going to show that over here, that is go to bed early and then discuss about the trip. So similarly for each and every day, we are going to show that particular completed to-dos, right? So on 19th of December, these many tasks were completed. Okay, so I think one more thing which we could do is whichever date was selected, we could highlight that. Currently 19th is selected, so while building up the project, we would be highlighting 19th. Okay, and by default the current date would be highlighted, that is 21st, right? So now let's move on to the next tab, that is the post tab. I think we should rename it to be account. Yeah, so in this post tab, basically we're going to show the total number of completed tasks, and towards the right the total number of pending tasks, and below that, based on the information that we've obtained here, we're going to show the line chart, right? And apart from that, we're going to show basically few account details about the user who's logged in. So I think that's it about this demo. So we'll be building this much in this particular project. So if you find this interesting, please hit the like button and let's get started with the project right away. So before moving on, I'd like to talk about Code Crafters. So basically Code Crafters is an amazing website to learn different kinds of programming concepts. So on Code Crafters, engineers learn better by solving real world challenges by creating from scratch. So they have different kinds of real world challenges set up which will help you to level up your skill. So if you check out over here, they have n number of challenges, that is build your own kind of X, like your own HTTP server, your own BitTorrent, or even your own Redis. Or apart from this, they have different kinds of challenges, as you can see. So for each challenge, they have different kinds of stages set up. So if you check out over here, and along with this, they have their own kind of instructions set up for each kind of steps. So for each step, as you can see, they have proper instructions given along for you to follow. So you can use that and you can build your solution just like this. And apart from that, they also have different kinds of language stacks, like basically Go, Rust, Python, JavaScript. So you can basically master JavaScript as well over here by pressing start track. So they have defined the required steps to follow along for you. So if you find this interesting, please check out the first link in the description. You would get a 40% off if you join along through my link. So try exploring about the website, try out different kinds of challenges they have. So thank you for watching. Let's move ahead. So now the first step is to create a expo managed project. So let's go do that. So currently inside my terminal, I'm inside my build folder. So here I'm going to write npx create expo app, and I'm going to press on enter. So this should ask us to choose the project name. So in this case, I'm just going to say to-do list, and I'm going to press on enter. So this should take in a couple of minutes to initialize our project for us inside of our build folder. And then later after that, we're going to go into the to-do list folder and then look into the file structure that they have given. So let's give it some time. Alright guys, so our project has been created. As you can see, your project is ready. So now the next step is we're going to go into that particular project directory. So let's press on file, open folder, and then go into the build folder, and we're going to go into the first project, that is to-do list tracker. So I'm going to go into the app.js over here. So this is the main app.js that expo has given us when we initialize our a new project structure using expo, right? So now we're gonna first of all, inject expo router into this particular to-do list. So let's head over to Chrome once and then search for expo router, and let's go into the first link. And here we're going to follow the manual installation steps. So yeah, this part has been completed. So now we're going to install the dependencies required to inject expo router. So copy this piece of code and then come into the terminal, a new terminal, and I'm just going to paste it over here. So let's give it some time to install all of these dependencies into our project. Okay, so currently all of the dependencies have been installed. You can check that in the package.json. So now let's follow the next step. That is, we need to set up an entry point for this with the help of the main. That is, we have to write expo router / entry inside of a package.json instead of this one. So let's write that, save the file. Let's move on to the next step over here. So now the next step is we need to modify the project configuration by adding the scheme value into our app.json. So let's go to the app.json and let's minimize this. Yeah, I'm going to add the scheme over here. Okay, you can pretty much give whatever app name you have given. So in my case it's to-do list. So I'm going to give it like this, save the file. Let's move on to the next step. Okay, so we need to add basically the plugins if your expo if your SDK is below SDK 50. So I'm going to add that into my babel.config.json over here by including the expo router. So now the next step is we're going to create our app router into our file tree. So I'm going to create that at the global level. So press a new folder and I'm going to enter app. That's the app router basically. So here I'm going to insert my first file. That's going to be index.js. So this basically becomes the root path to the app directory, right? So enter rnfes to get the shorthand snippet. So to get the shorthand snippet, you need to have installed ES7 inside your systems. So if you go over here to the extensions tab and search for ES7, so you need to have installed this one. Yeah, that is ES7 React Redux or React Native snippets to get the shorthand code snippets into your file, right? So yeah, let's go back to the file tree over here. So this basically becomes the home directory. That is, this is going to represent the /. So whenever you refresh the app, this is the first screen that's going to be shown up because this is going to represent just the /, which is the home directory. So save the file and then let's run the app. So here I'm going to write npx expo start to run the app. So basically we should be seeing just index because this is the home directory which is representing the /. So here we need to see a few options to view the app on the simulator. So let's give it some time. Yeah, so as you can see, we have few options to open on Android or to open on iOS simulator or to open on the web. So in our case we have the iOS simulator. So let's press on I. For Android users you can press on A. So this is going to take in a couple of minutes to open this app in on the expo app that is installed on the simulator. So let's give it some time. So as you can see towards the right, we're able to see the first screen being shown on the screen, that is the index screen which represents the home route. Okay, as I told. So now the next step we're going to do is basically we're going to go into MongoDB and then create a new project and connect that project to this particular to-do list, right? So now let's head over to Chrome and then go to mongodb.com. So I've opened up mongodb.com on Chrome. So now the next step is let's sign in with Google over here. Alright, so after signing up, it's going to take you to this particular page, and over here it's going to show the recently used project, that is to do app. So now let's press on the drop down, scroll to the bottom and then press on new project. Okay, so here you're going to give the project a name. So here in this case I'm going to say to do list, and I'm going to press on next over here, and I am the project owner as you can see. So let's press on create project. So now let's press on create a deployment. Press on the create button. So here we're going to make use of the free plan, that is M0, and apart from that these details I'm going to leave it as default, and I'm going to press on create. Yeah, so now we need to set up the user. So username, it's going to be my name, and the password also I'm going to give it my name itself, and I'm going to press on create user. So here we're going to add this particular IP, so it's accessible from anywhere, just because this is a tutorial. Okay, and I'm going to press on add entry, and I'm gonna press on finish and close. Press on go to overview. So this is going to take in a couple of minutes to initialize your backend, which as you can see over here, we are deploying your changes, so it's going to take in some time. Yeah, I think it's done over here. So now let's initialize our API folder in the to-do list project. So let's come over here, new folder. Let's create a new terminal, and over here I'm going to create a new folder, that is the API folder. So into the terminal, let's press on cd API. So we are into that particular folder, and now the first step is to create the package.json. So to do that, I'm going to say npm init. So package name is going to be API and version that one. So for the description, I'm going to give it as backend, and for the remaining ones, I'm going to press on enter. So as you can see, inside of our API folder, our package.json is created. So now we're going to install some dependencies into the API folder so that we can write the code for the backend part. So here I'm going to say yarn add body parser cos express mongoose nodemon json web token, and I'm going to press on enter. So these are some of the required dependencies to write the code required for the backend part, that is while initializing our endpoints. So as you can see, all of the dependencies have been installed over here. So let's also write the start script now itself. So I'm going to say start. So in this case, it's going to be nodemon index.js. Okay, so save the file, and then I'm going to create my index.js at the root level where all of the backend code is going to go into. Okay, so now let's start defining some definitions over here inside of our index.js file. So here I'm going to say const express equals to require express, and I'm going to say const body parser equals to require body parser, and I'm going to initialize my mongoose. So I'm going to say const mongoose equals to require of mongoose, and after that I'm going to initialize my crypto. So I'm going to say const crypto equals to require of crypto, and after that I'm going to initialize the app instance. So I'm going to say const app equals to express. We're going to choose a specific port. So in my case, I'm going to choose 3000. You can choose anything other than this as well. So now I'm going to initialize my car. So I'm going to say const cars equals to require of cars, and I'm going to write app.use of cars. So here we're going to add in two more statements, that is app.use body parser dot URL encoded extend is going to be false, and apart from that I'm going to say app.use the body parser.json. So here we're going to apply the connect method using mongoose. So I'm going to say mongoose.connect. Okay, so this is going to take in the URL. So to get the URL, let's go back to MongoDB. Let's press on the connect button over here. Choose the third option, MongoDB for VS Code. Copy this URL, that's the connection URL, and I'm going to paste it over here. Make sure to change the password, whatever you have given. So in my case, it's going to be my name itself. Okay, and after doing this, we're going to apply the then method, which is going to give us basically whatever the result is. So here I'm going to say console.log connected to MongoDB, and if at all there is any error, we're going to catch that over here. So I'm going to say dot catch of error. Here I'm going to say console.log error connecting to MongoDB. Okay, and we're going to make use of the listen method finally. So here I'm going to say app.listen. It's going to take in the port. So in my case, it's going to be 3000, and it's going to take in a function to execute. So here we're going to basically give a console.log message which says server is running on port 3000, Okay, so yep, that's it. So let's format once, and we could show the error over here. Save the file, and yeah, over here I'm gonna say yarn start, and then I'm gonna press on enter. So you should be seeing two messages, that is servers running on your port 3000 and then connected to MongoDB. Yeah, so as you can see, we have seen the two statements over here, which means this particular app is connected to the backend. So now the next step is we're going to initialize our tabs and then initialize some basic design into our home screen. And later after that, we're going to initialize two screens for logging in as well as registering. And after that, we're going to initialize our to-do list so that we can add some to-dos into the backend part. So now let's head over to the file tree and then initialize the design required for the tabs. So now I'm just going to open up my file tree and then create a new route that is for the tabs. Okay, so press on app and then new folder. I'm going to say tabs and then press on enter. So for the tabs, we're going to initialize a layout.js file. So I'm going to say underscore layout.js. So here we're going to define all of the tab structure. That is basically we have three tabs. So let's start defining it. So first of all, I'm going to say import tabs from expo router. And here I'm going to say export default function layout. And here I'm going to say return tabs, and we're going to initialize the first tab. So here I'm going to say tabs.screen. So before that, let's initialize our home routes, our routes for the tabs. So inside the tabs, we're going to have the first thing that's going to be home. We're going to have the second thing. So press on tabs again, new folder, that's going to be calendar. Press on tabs again and new folder, that's going to be profile. Okay, so under each of the folders, create index.js file. So I'm going to say index.js rnfes to get the shorthand snippet. Save the file, and we're going to initialize the layout as well for each folder. So under calendar, I'm going to say underscore layout.js. So I'm just going to paste in the layout over here. That is basically initialize a stack, and then inside of the stack.screen, initialize the name. So save the file. And for the home, let's initialize the index.js first. So rnfes to get the shorthand snippet. Save the file, and again I'm going to initialize the layout for the home. So I'm just going to paste in the same thing. So this is going to be index again. So save the file, and for the profile also we're going to do the same thing. So index.js. So rnfes to get the shorthand snippet. Save the file, and for the profile again new file, that is underscore layout.js, and I'm going to paste in the same thing. That is the index is going to be the initial file for the profile. So now let's head back to the layout of the tabs, and then let's initialize the first tab that we have. So name is going to be home, and we're going to provide some options to this. So basically we're going to give the tab bar label, it's going to be home, and I'm going to give the tab bar label style. So we're going to pass in the color, that's going to be this color code, that is 7C B9E8. And after that we're going to say header shown as false, and we're going to initialize the tab bar icon. So this in turn is going to take in the value that is focused. So depending upon whether it's focused or not, we're going to render the icon. So here I'm going to say focused. We're going to show some icon, else we're going to show some other icon. So if it is focused, we're going to show the tasks icon from the font awesome. So let's head over to expo.icons, the first link, and I'm going to search for tasks. Okay, that is this one. So import the icon family, and we're going to copy the render component code, and we're going to paste in here as well as here. So So we're just going to make the change for the color, if at all it's focused or not. That is the blue color that we have. Okay, so save the file. Yeah, so now we're going to just copy this and make the changes for the remaining two tabs. Okay, so for the second one, it's going to be calendar. All right, and tab bar label, it's going to be, okay, this is going to be in small, not capital, because that's what the name we've given. This also we're going to change it to be calendar. So the icon, we're going to change it. That's going to be basically the calendar icon. So let's come over here and search for calendar. So we're going to choose this from and design. So import the icon family. So let's copy the render component code and we're going to paste it. Let's say over here. Again, it's going to be the same thing, but we're just going to change the color to be this one if it is focused. Okay, so save the file. So now we have the next and final one, that is for the profile. So the name is going to be profile because that's what the name we've given to the folder in the file tree. And here also I'm just going to say profile for the tab bar label, and we're going to change the icon to be account details. That's going to be the name of the icon. So account details, that is this one. So from material community icons, so first of all let's import the icon family at the top over here. So copy the render component code and we're gonna paste it over here. If at all it is focused. Okay, so save the file. Yeah, so that's it. So now the next step is we're gonna initialize this tab into the index.js. So currently we are seeing this particular index on the screen towards the right, but I do not want that. I want the tabs to be shown initially when the app loads. So I'm going to make use of the redirect method that we have. So import redirect from expo router. So it's going to take in basically the href value. So here I'm just going to say move to / tabs, and the first tab should be home. So save the file. So as you can see, this is the first tab that is being shown. So we are able to see the tab design and everything is working perfectly fine. Okay, yeah, so that's working fine. So now the next step is we're gonna do some basic designs into the home screen, that is basically the index.js, and after that we're gonna initialize two screens, that is the register and the login screen, and we're gonna write some endpoints for both the things. So now let's look into the design of the home screen over here. So first of all, before the view, I'm going to initialize my fragments over here, because after the view, we're going to have the scroll view coming up. So it's going to come over here, and inside the view, I'm going to initialize my pressable, which is going to contain basically the three categories that were shown in the demo. So over here, first one is going to say all. So let's get the styling for the pressable over here. So I'm going to give it a background color of this color code, that is 7C B9E8. And it's going to have some padding horizontal and vertical. So padding vertical of 6 and a border radius of 25, and I'm going to say align items of center and justify content of center as well. Okay, so this is the style for the outermost pressable that's going to contain the text. So for the text, we're going to give it a color of white. And a text align of center. So for the view, let's give the style. So style, it's going to have a margin horizontal of, let's say, 10, and it's going to have a margin vertical as well. So margin vertical of 10, and it's going to have a flex direction of row, and it's going to have align items of center as well, and we're going to give it a gap of 12. So yeah, let's save the file. So as you can see, you're able to see that coming on the screen. So let's copy this a couple of times, one more time and one more time. So the second one is going to say work, that is this one. This one I'm going to say work, and this is going to be personal. Yeah, so as you can see, that's looking better. So now towards the rightmost part, we're going to show the button to add the to do, right? So here to do that, I'm going to initialize my one more pressable. So this is basically going to contain the and design icon, that is the plus circle icon. So let's search for that. So plus circle from, okay, let's choose this one itself. Or yeah, we can choose this one because it's gonna apply the background color for this. The previous one was the outlined version. So let's copy the render component code over here, and we're gonna paste it inside of the pressable over here. So this is gonna have a different background color, that is 007 FFF. Yeah, so as you can see, that's looking better. So we need this icon to be pushed towards the rightmost part. So we're gonna go to the previous pressable, and here I'm gonna say margin right of auto. So as you can see, it automatically pushed the icon towards the rightmost part. So yeah, let's increase the size of the icon to be 35. Okay, that's looking better. Or let's keep it to be 30. Yeah, 30 is good. So now the next step we'll be looking into is, by default, I'm gonna keep the to-dos array over here. So I'm gonna say const to-dos equals to an empty array currently at the initial state. So based on this particular array length, that is to-dos array length, we're gonna do conditional rendering and then show the design that's gonna come over here. So for this, I'm gonna initialize my scroll view. So import that from React Native, and for the scroll view, we're gonna give it some style. So I'm gonna say style over here. So basically a flex of 1, and background color is gonna be white. Okay, so that's looking fine. So now inside this, I'm gonna initialize my view, which is gonna have some internal spacing, that is a padding of 10. And over here, I'm gonna apply the condition, that is if at all the to-dos dot length is greater than 0, then we're gonna show some design. Else we're gonna show some other design over here if the length is not greater than 0. Okay, if it is greater than 0, we're just gonna initialize a view for now. And if it is not greater than 0, that means if it is empty, we're just gonna say we're just gonna give some information, and then we're gonna give the add button so that we can add the to do. So firstly, let's design the second part, that is if at all we do not have any to dos into the list. So first of all, I'm gonna get the image over here. Yeah, so you can pretty much copy the image. That's the link. I'll be sending the link in the description. You can get that. Okay, so import image from React Native, and I'm gonna save the file. So as you can see, that's the to do image. So yeah, now the next step is below the image, I'm gonna initialize my text field, giving some information. Here I'm gonna say no tasks for today, add a task. So let's give the style for the text. So I'm going to say style over here. It's basically going to have a font size of 16, and it's going to have a margin top of, let's say, 15, and it's going to have a font weight of 600 and a text align of center. Save the file. So as you can see, that's looking better. So now below the text, we're going to have one more icon, that is basically the same icon, that is if at all you press on that, we are again gonna open up the to do. Okay, we're gonna show two options. One is this one, and one is this one. Okay, because when the to dos are present, automatically it's gonna go to this particular view, that is whatever the design is. So we'll be making use of this button to add the to do, right? So yeah, below the text, we're gonna initialize the button, that is pressable, and inside the pressable, basically we're just gonna paste this off, that is the plus circle icon over here. So yeah, format once and save the file. Yeah, so now we're going to give the design for the outermost view, that is this one. So it's going to contain all the three things: the image, the text, and the icon. So basically I'm going to give it a flex of 1, justify content of center, align items of center as well, and we're going to give it some margin top. So margin top of, let's say, 130, and we're going to give it margin left of auto and margin right of auto. Save the file. Yeah, so as you can see, that's looking better. So now for the pressable, we're going to give some margin top to this. So I'm going to say margin top of 15. Okay, yeah, so we have finished designing the initial part of the home screen based on this to-dos array. That is, if at all it's present, we're going to show the design. If at all it's present, that is when we initialize our backend. So currently I've given an empty view. If at all it's not present, we're going to show this particular design, which says the image, the text, and the icon, right? So now the next step, as I told, is we're going to initialize two more screens, that is the login screen as well as the register screen, and then we're going to write the endpoints for the user to register into the MongoDB backend. So now I'm going to open up my file tree and then create a new route for my authentication. So let's press on app and then new folder. I'm going to say authenticate. So here, first of all, I'm going to create two screens. First is the login.js. So rnfes to get the shorthand snippet. Save the file. And again, one more screen, that is register.js. So rnfes to get the shorthand snippet and then save the file. So now let's create the layout for the authenticate. So I'm going to say new file underscore layout.js. I'm just going to paste the code over here. That is basically we are initializing the stack layout, and then inside the stack.screen, firstly I'm going to pass in login, and secondly I'm going to pass in register, and options I'm going to give both the same, that is header shown is going to be false. So let's format once and save the file. So now we need to see the login screen so that we can check out the design whatever we are building. So let's come to the index.js, and instead of tabs, I'm going to say authenticate and then login. So let's refresh the app once. So as you can see, we're able to see the login screen. So let's start designing the login screen now. So let's go to login.js firstly, that is over here. And first of all, I'm going to make use of my safe area view. So let's import safe area view over here instead of the normal view. And for the safe area view, let's give some basic styling. So I'm going to say a flex of 1, background color of white, and align items of center. Okay, and apart from that, we're going to initialize the view just after the text. So I'm going to say view over here. This is going to contain the app name. So here I'm going to say to-do list tracker. So let's give the style for the view first of all. I'm going to give it a margin top of 100. Alright, so let's give the style for the tracker. So I'm going to say style, font size of 16, font weight of 500, and let's give a blue shade of color. So let's search for blue shades of CSS. The first link, so you can choose any color you want, and I'm going to write it over here, that is the color. Okay, let's increase the font size to be 18 and this to be 600. Yeah, that's looking fine. Let's keep it to be 80. Alright, so after that, we're going to initialize our keyboard avoiding view. So I'm going to say keyboard avoiding view, import that from React Native as such, and we're going to have one more view over here, which is going to basically say align items of center. So align items of center, and inside this view, we're going to initialize basically a text attribute, which says log into your account. Alright, so let's give the style for this. So I'm going to say style. So basically font size of 16. We're going to give it a font weight of 600. A slight margin top of 12. And save the file. Let's keep margin top to be 20. Alright, so after the view, we're going to have one more view that's basically going to contain the first piece of input. So here I'm going to initialize the view over here. So view, this view in turn is going to have the icon. So we need two things, the email icon and the password icon. So let's search for email over here. So from material icons, that is this one. So copy the icon family first. copy the render component code, and we're gonna paste it over here. And after that, we're gonna initialize our text input from React Native. It's gonna have a placeholder. So in this case, we're gonna say enter your email. Okay, so let's give some style to this. So color is gonna be gray, and margin vertical is gonna be 10, width is gonna be 300, and font size is basically gonna be, first of all, let's initialize the states for this. So I'm gonna say const email comma set email equals to use state of an empty string. Similarly, let's do the same thing for the password as well. So I'm going to say const password comma set password equals to use state of an empty string. So here we're going to write the condition that if at all we have the email, then I want the font size to be 18 or 17, else also I want it to be 17. So format once and let's save the file. Use state does not exist, so let's import use state from React. Okay, so as you can see, we are able to see that on the screen. So we're going to give a margin top to the outermost view. So here I'm going to say margin top of, let's say, 70. Yeah, that's looking good. So now we're going to give the style for this particular view. So I'm going to say a flex direction of row, align items of center. I'm going to give it a gap of 5, and it's going to have a different background color of this color code. So some padding vertical of 5 and a slight border radius. So border radius of 5 and a margin top of, let's say, 30. Okay, so save the file. So as you can see, that's looking better. So now the next step we'll be looking into is we're going to style the icon. So let's give style over here. It's basically going to have a margin left of 8, and the color is going to be gray for the icon that is over here. Yep, that's looking better. So now let's give the value to the text input. So let's come over here. It's going to take the value prop. So it's going to be whatever is stored inside of the email, and we have the next method that is the onChange text, such that whatever the user is typing, we're going to store that inside of state. So access the text whatever the user is typing, and then we're going to say set email to the text whatever that is present. Yeah, so this part is done. So now let's move on to the next text input. That's going to be the password. So we're going to write it just below this view. So just copy down the same thing, pretty much this particular view, and we're going to paste it over here. Save the file. All right, and let's give the margin top to be 20 for this, or let's keep it to be 30 itself. Okay, and let's change the icons now. So basically we need the lock icon. So I'm going to search for lock. That is this one from Anand design. So first of all, import the icon family and then copy the render component code. So we're going to paste it over here, and we're going to give the margin left value as well that we previously had. So color is going to be over here gray. Yeah, so here let's change the values. So instead of email, it's going to be password. Here instead of set email, it's going to be set password. Right here it's going to be enter your password, and we're going to give secure text entry is going to be true since this is a password field. All right, that's looking better. So now the next step we'll be looking into is after the view, we're going to have one more piece of design that's going to come over here. So I'm going to say view. It's going to have two pieces of text which says keep me logged in. This is for the design part. So here I'm going to say keep me logged in, and the second text is going to say I forgot password. So let's give the style for this. So I'm going to say style. So basically I'm going to give it a flex direction of row, align items of center, and we're going to give it a justify content of space between, margin top of 12, and then justify content of space between. Yeah, that's looking good. So now for the second text, we're going to just change the color a bit. I'm going to say style, color is going to be this color code, that is 007FFF. All right, so if you want, you can increase the font size, or I mean the font weight to be 500, just like this. And apart from that, we're gonna give empty view after this. So here I'm gonna say a margin top of 40, and after this we're gonna show the button that is to login. So I'm gonna say pressable, initialize a text field which says login over here. So let's give the style to the pressable first of all. So I'm going to say style over here. So it's going to have a specific width of 200, and it's going to have a background color of, let's say we choose any light shade of blue, let's say this one, blue gray, and we're going to paste it over here. Yeah, that's looking okay. And we're going to give it basically some internal spacing, padding of 15, and a border radius of, let's say, a 6. We're going to give margin left of auto and margin right of auto as well. Save the file. So let's increase the margin top over here to be 70, or 60 would be fine. And for the text, let's give the style. So basically text align of center, and I'm going to give it a color of white. Yeah, so that's looking good. Let's give the font weight for this to be bold, and font size is going to be 16. Yeah, so that's looking better. So now after that, we're going to basically initialize one more piece of pressable. If at all the user is not registered, we can register the user. So pressable, we're going to have a text which says don't have an account, and then sign up. So let's give the style for this. So basically it's going to have a text align of center, just like this, and we're going to give it a margin top as well, or we could give the margin top to the pressable also. All right, yeah, that's looking better. So for this, let's give the font size 15, color of gray, and save the file. Yeah, so that's looking good. So now next step is we're going to initialize the router. So I'm going to say const router equals to use router, import that from expo router, and here we're going to initialize on press event for this. So I'm going to say on press, we can say router.push or router.replace to /register, just like this. So let's give that a try. So as you can see, we're coming to the register screen. So let's copy everything and then paste it over here, and let's change the name for this, that is register. So here we're just going to make some changes. That's the only thing that we're going to do. Okay, so now we're going to make the change. Here we're going to say sign into your account or register to your account. So email, password, that's going to be same, and apart from that, we're going to remove this design, this one. Yeah, and this is going to be same itself, email and password. We have set up the same thing in the previous screen, that is login screen as well. And here we're going to say already have an account and then sign up. All right, so yeah, so this is going to go to /login. So here we're going to change the name, it's going to be register. So save the file. Yeah, so as you can see, we're able to switch from both the screens, that is login screen and the register screen. So now the next step is we're going to create two endpoints inside of our index.js file, that is to login and then register. So before initializing the endpoints required, that is the register and the login, firstly we're going to initialize our models, okay, inside this particular app. So I'm going to press on API and then new folder, models folder. So inside the models folder, first of all, I'm going to create the model for the user. So I'm going to say user.js. So here let's start defining the user model. So I'm going to first of all initialize mongoose. So I'm going to say const mongoose equals to require of mongoose, and here I'm going to say const user schema equals to new mongoose dot schema. So it's going to take in the name first of all. So type is going to be a string, and we're going to have required is going to be true. Next we have the email attribute. So type is going to be of string again, and required is going to be true, and also unique is going to be true. So after the email we have basically the password. So I'm going to say password over here. So password type is going to be name, type is going to be string, and required is going to be true. Then apart from that, we're going to also include all of the to-dos added by that particular user. So here I'm going to say type is going to be mongoose dot schema dot types dot object id, and reference is going to be to do, which we will define in just a bit. There is a to do schema, and after that we have basically the created at. So I'm going to say created at type is going to be of date. So whenever that particular to do is created, automatically we're going to include this particular date value into the backend. I'm going to say date.nav. Alright, so that's the required things for the user schema. So now here we're going to export the required value. So here I'm going to say const user equals to mongoose.modal of the user, and I'm going to pass in the user schema just like this. And here I'm going to say module dot exports equals to the user. Yeah, so that's it. This is the user schema that is defined. So now the next thing is I'm going to create one more file, that is todo.js. So here we're going to define the schema for the to do. So again, let's initialize our mongoose. So I'm going to say const mongoose equals to require of mongoose, okay, and here I'm going to say const to do schema equals to new mongoose dot schema. So here it's going to take in the title of the to do, whatever it is. So of course the type is going to be string over here, and here I'm going to say required is going to be true. So after the title attribute we have the status of the to do, okay. So here I'm going to say type is going to be string, and we're going to have the enum values, either it's in pending state or it is in the completed state. So these are the two states that we will be using. Yeah, so apart from this, we're going to give the default value. It's of course going to be in the pending state whenever it is created. So default we're giving it as pending. So after status we're going to have the category of the to do. So category, so if you don't select any category while adding, by default we are going to give it as all category. So type is going to be string, required is going to be true. So yeah, apart from category we are going to have the due date for the to do. So suppose if you create the to do like for today, then by today night that's going to be the due date, okay. So here I'm going to say type is going to be string, and we're going to have required is true. Alright, so after the due date we're going to have basically the final one, that is created at value. So the type is going to be of date, and by default we're going to say date.now. Okay, so this is going to say date.now, just like this. And let's export the required values at the bottom. So I'm going to say const to do equals to mongoose.modal. We're going to pass in the to do value over here, and we're going to pass in the to do schema, just like this. And here I'm going to say module.exports. So module.exports equals to the to do. Yeah, so that's it. So we have defined both the models that are required in this app, that is the to do model as well as the user model, that is the user.js file. So now the next step is we're going to initialize two endpoints as I told. So let's head back to the index.js file, and here first of all let's import the required to do's over here. So I'm going to say const user equals to require, go into the models and then access the user. Then similarly for to do, so I'm going to say const to do equals to require okay. Yeah, so by this we have accessed both of the user model as well as the to do model inside of my index.js file. So now let's make use of the post method and then write the endpoint for registering a user. So I'm going to say app.post over here. So it's going to be /register. It's going to take in of course the async, in which we have the request and the response in the callback. And first of all let's initialize our try and then catch block. So first of all inside of the catch block I'm going to say error registering the user with that particular error, and we're going to send the result.status. So result.status of 500.json with a message being registration failed. Okay, that was it about the catch block. So inside the try block, firstly to register a user we need access to three things. That is the name, email and the password. So I'm going to say const name, email and the password. This is going to come from of course the request.body. So here I'm going to say request.body. So first of all we're going to check if the email is already registered. So check if email is already registered. So to do that I'm going to say const existing user equals to await user dot find one method. We're going to find basically with the help of the email whatever the user is given. So if at all there is an existing user, if we find a user with that email, then that user already exists. Okay, so here I'm going to say console.log email already. Yeah, so if at all the email is new, then we're going to say create a new user. So I'm going to say const new user equals to new, access the user model, and this is going to take in three things, that is the name, email as well as the password. So with the help of this we're going to create the new user. Alright, so after creating the new user we have to save the user to the database. So I'm going to say await new user, we have the save method. I'm just going to say new user.save. So with the help of this we're going to save the user to the backend. So after that I'm going to send the status. So here I'm going to say result.status of 202.json with a message being user registered successfully. Okay, so yep, that's it. So this is the endpoint to create a user into the backend. So now the next step is we're gonna write the endpoint to login. So here I'm going to say app.post to /login. It's going to be again the async method with the request and the response inside of the callback. And here again let's initialize our try and then catch block over here. So catch of error, here I'm going to say console.log login failed with that particular error, and we're going to send the response over here. So here I'm going to say result.status of 500.json with a message being login failed again. Okay, so yeah, that's it about the catch block. So inside the try block, first of all, we need access to basically two things to log in, that is the email and the password. So let's get that. Okay, so const email comma password equals to request.body. So first of all, we're going to check if at all the user is already present. So here I'm going to say const user equals to await, access the user model dot with the help of find one method, that is we're passing the email to this. Okay, so if at all there is no user in the backend, that means there is no user present. Okay, with that particular email, whatever the user has entered in the input field. So here I'm going to say return result dot status of 401.json with a message being invalid password or invalid email. So now after that, we're going to check if at all the password is correct or not. So here I'm going to say if at all the user.password matches with, if at all the user.password is not equal to the password that the user is given, then that means it's a wrong password. Result.status of 401.json with basically the message being invalid password. Okay, so we have checked both the conditions. So if at all the password is right, first of all, we're going to send the token to the front end part. So I'm going to say const token equals to JWT. Let's initialize JWT at the top of the page over here, just like this. And here I'm going to say JWT dot the sign method. So here I'm going to say dot sign. It's going to take in basically the user ID. It's going to be user dot underscore ID. And to this we're going to pass in the secret key. So I'm just going to define that at the top over here. Yeah, so you can pretty much note that down. So with the help of the crypto, we're going to generate this particular 32-bit key, and we are going to return the secret key, which will be stored inside of this secret key variable, right? And we are initializing the function generate secret key to this particular variable. So the same thing, I'm passing it over here. So we're going to send the token inside of the response. So here I'm going to say result.status of 200 dot the JSON of basically the token whatever is generated. So yep, that's it. These are the two endpoints required to log in the user as well as register the user. So now the next step is we're going to go into the front end part and then create on press function on the register button. Okay, and then we'll check if at all the user is getting registered or not. So I think for the register button, for the register screen, we need one more piece of input, that is basically going to be the name. So let's head over to authenticate register.js. Let's copy this one more time. And we're gonna paste it just above the email over here. Yep, so let's make the changes. So let's also initialize our input field or input over here. So I'm gonna say const name comma set name equals to use state. Initially it's going to be empty. So let's go to the input and provide the value for this. So here instead of password, value is going to be name, and over here it's going to be set name. Let's remove secure text entry to be true. Let's remove that, and then yep, let's save the file. Yeah, so let's just change the icon once. So let's head over here and then search for person icon. Let's copy the render component code and we're gonna paste it over here. Let's give it some margin left as well. So margin left of 8, and the color is gonna be gray over here. So iron icons is not imported. Yeah, so as you can see, that's looking better. So let's change the password. Let's change the placeholder for this. Here I'm going to say enter your name. Alright, so now the next step is we're going to initialize the onPress event on the register for function, and then we're going to call the endpoint over here. So let's go over here and then initialize onPress function on the register button that is over here. So here I'm going to initialize my onPress. So I'm going to say onPress equals to handle register. So let's define this function at the top over here. So I'm going to say const handle register equals to arrow function, and over here I'm going to initialize my user. So to register we need access to three things, that is the name, it's going to be name itself, that's stored inside of state, and email is going to be email, and password is going to be password itself. Okay, so now let's install Axios into the system, and apart from that we also need access to the async storage as well. So here I'm going to say yarn add Axios, and let's install even async storage. So let's search for expo async storage. Let's go to the first link. Let's copy this piece of code, and after Axios gets installed we are going to install this package as well. Okay, now these two packages have been installed. Let's just reload the app once because we are just seeing the login screen over there. Yeah, the function over here. So here I'm going to say Axios. So we need to import Axios from Axios with the help of the post method. We're going to pass in the URL over here, that is http localhost 3000. That's the port we have chosen, and it's going to be /register, and it's going to take in the user. And after doing this we're going to apply the then method over here. I'm going to say dot then of response console.log of response if you want to see whatever the response is coming, and basically we are going to give the alert box as we usually do. So I'm going to say alert.alert. Here I'm going to say two messages, that is registration successful, and here it's going to be you have been registered successfully. Okay, and apart from that we're going to keep all of the fields to be empty. So I'm going to say set email to be empty, and set password to be empty, as well as set name to be empty as well. So set name to be empty, and if at all there is any error while executing this we're going to catch the error. So I'm going to say catch of error over here, and again we're going to show the alert box. So copy down the same piece of statement over here, and for the first one we're going to say registration failed, an error occurred during registration. Okay, and we are also going to show it in the console as well. So console.log error with that particular error message. So let's give this a try, and let's give the on click over here. I think it's already given for the handle register. Yeah, it's given. So save the file, and yep, let's give this a try. So let's enter the name. I think it's refreshing. Okay, so now let's go to the register screen, enter the name over here, and we're going to enter the email, and I'm going to enter the password as well, and I'm going to press on register. So as you can see, registration successfully, have been registered successfully. Let's press on OK, and let's check the same in the backend as well. So here I'm going to go over to my database, and I'm going to press on browse collections. You should be seeing our first user being added to the backend. Alright, so as you can see, let's go to first of all the login.js file, and here let's initialize the handle login function. So here I'm going to say const handle is going to be email, and the password is going to be the password itself. So again, let's initialize our axios.post method. So let's import axios from axios. Yeah, so let's import it manually. So here I'm going to say import axios from http localhost /3000. It's going to be / login over here, and it's going to take in the user object as the data, the post data. So here, after doing that, I'm going to apply the .then method, which in turn is going to give us the response. If you want, you can console.log the response, and apart from that, we're going to store that particular thing into our async storage. So first of all, let's get the token. So I'm going to say const token equals to response dot data dot token. If you want, you can console.log the response, and by that you would see this is the value to get the required token, because we have sent the token from the endpoint to the front end part in the JSON, right? So here I'm going to say async storage. So we basically have the set item method, so let's use that. So I'm going to say set item. You're going to pass in the key, that's going to be auth token, and the value is going to be the token itself that we have just obtained in the above line. So after that, I'm going to say router.push to basically, instead of push, let's use replace to this path, that is /tabs /home. Okay, so make sure you import async storage just like this, and I'm going to save the file. So let's give the function that is handle login over here, that is to your login button. So I'm going to say on press equals to handle login. So again, we're going to initialize a use effect and check, if at all you reload the app, and if at all we have the token inside of async storage, then we are going to automatically push the user to the home screen. If at all the token is it's not present or expired, automatically we're going to show the login screen itself. So yeah, let's import use effect from React as such, and inside the use effect, I'm going to initialize the function to check the login status. So I'm going to say const check login status equals to a normal arrow function. It's going to be an async method, so let's write async over here. So first of all, let's track the token that is present inside of the async storage. So here I'm going to say try, and then the catch block with the error. So here I'm going to say console.log of error. So the try block, first of all, I'm going to access my token. So I'm going to say const token equals to await async storage dot we have the get item method to get the token. So we need to pass in the same value that we passed while setting it, that is the key. So the key was auth token, so I'm passing the same value over here. So after that, I'm going to check the condition, that is if at all we have the token present, then I'm going to say router dot replace to /tabs and then to the home. So yeah, router is initialized and async storage is imported, and let's call the function after defining it over here, that is check login status. So let's save the file and let's try to log in. So that's my email and this is my password. Let's log in. Okay, we have an error as you can see. Okay, somewhere over here to find one must be an object got. Okay, login failed, object parameter error. So let's look into the index.js file, that is wherever we've gone wrong, that is basically in the endpoint itself over here. Okay, I think this should be in the form of an object, not just the value. Okay, I think now we should get the correct results. So yeah, let's press on login again. So as you can see, we have logged into the correct tabs directory of the home route over here, right? And I'll just make this change, just write it in the form of an object, then only the find one method is going to work. So as you can see, we have correctly logged in. So the login function as well as the register function is working absolutely fine. So now the next step is, if at all you press on this particular plus button over here or over here, we're gonna initialize a bottom model, and we're gonna initialize first of all the design to add a to do to the backend, and after that we're gonna design an endpoint in the index.js file to create a to do into the backend of that particular user. So now let's install a dependency that is React Native models to design the model over here. So here I'm going to say yarn add React Native models, and I'm going to press on enter. So after installing this, let's head back to the index.js of the home route, and here firstly let's initialize our state, that is to check whether or not the model is open or closed. Okay, so over here first of all I'm going to say const const is visible, comma set model visible equals to use state. So initially it's gonna be in false state, that is it's not open. So here I'm gonna import use state from React. And one more thing, that is if at all we need the model, if at all we need the bottom model to open up, we need to include something known as the model portal inside of the layout.js over here. So here basically I'm gonna include my fragment over here, and we're gonna include the model portal just below the stack, that is in this line. So here I'm gonna say model portal, import that from React Native models as such. Okay, so let's save the file and let's head back to our index.js over here, of the home directory. So now let's go down, and then after the scroll view, initialize our bottom model, that is the design for adding the to do. So here I'm going to say bottom model, import that from React Native models. Let's provide some initial options to this. So here I'm going to say on hardware back press, or instead of this we can use on back drop press. It's basically going to take in a function, and I'm going to say set the model visible to be whatever the opposite of is model visible. That is, if it is true, make it false, and if it's false, make it true. Why is that not? Yeah, okay, I've just given the wrong name. Is model visible. Okay, so apart from that, we have on hardware back press. For this also it's going to be the same thing, that is set model visible to be the opposite of is model visible. And apart from that, we are going to provide the swipe direction. It's basically going to take an array of directions. So here I'm going to say up and then down. Apart from that, we're going to give the swipe threshold as well. I'm going to pass in 200, and I'm going to say model title equals to the model title. Import model title first from React Native models, and here it's going to take in a title which says add to do. Okay, so after that we're going to pass in the model animation over here. So model animation is going to be basically new animation. We're going to say new slide animation. Import that from React Native models again, which is going to take in an object, and we're going to say slide from the bottom to top. Okay, so next we need to pass in the visible value. So this is going to be is model visible. So if it is true, it's going to show up. If it's false, it's not going to show up. Okay, and finally we have one more option, that is on touch outside. It's going to take in a function, and over here we're going to say set the model visible to be the opposite of is model visible. So if it's true, make it false, and if it's false, make it true. So inside the bottom model, we're going to initialize the model content. So import model content from React Native models, and inside the model content, first of all, let's give the style to this. So it's going to have a width of 100%. All right, and it's going to have basically a height of 200. And inside the model content, basically let's initialize the view over here, and let's initialize the first thing, that is the text input, to add the to do. So placeholder is going to be input a new task over here, and let's initialize the state to hold the to do. So I'm going to say const to do comma set to do. Let's equals to use state. Initially it's going to be an empty string, so use state is already imported. So let's scroll down and let's give the value for this. So value is going to be to do, and of course it's going to have the onChange text method, so that we are going to hold whatever the user is typing inside of the state. Here I'm going to say set the to do to be of that particular text. So let's format once, and then let's save the file. And let's also provide some model content does not exist. So let's import that from React Native models. Alright, so as soon as I saved the file, I was able to see the login screen. But according to our logic, that is inside of our login.js, okay, we have this use effect that is present. So if at all the token is present, we should move to the initial home screen, right? But as you can see, I didn't notice that one. As you can see over here, token is currently undefined. As you can see, the past value is undefined. So we need to make a change inside of the index.js file of the API folder, that is where our endpoints are present. So over here again we have made the same mistake, that is we have to pass in the form of an object, that is the token. So now hopefully we should get the token. So let's log in again one more time. So as you can see, now the token is present. So now if you refresh the app or save something, you should be able to see the login screen, the home screen itself, that is the tab directory. So now let's head back to the index.js file over here and continue designing the bottom modal. Let's provide some style to this. So basically I'm going to give it some internal spacing, that is a padding of 10, and we're going to give it a border color. So border color of this color code, and then we're going to give it a border width, and border radius of 5, and basically a flex of 1. So now let's check if at all this is working fine. So let's initialize an on press event on this particular icon, or the entire pressable, or we'll give it to the icon itself. So on press equals to, it's going to take in a function, and here I'm going to say set is modal visible, or set modal visible, to be the opposite of is modal visible. So let's copy the same thing, and we're going to put it over here for the button that's at the top, that is this one. Okay, I have not copied it correctly, so copy that, and we're gonna paste it over here. Okay, so save the file. So let's press on this button that is present. So as you can see, we are able to see that on the screen. We are able to see the bottom model opening up. So now let's give the style for the view over here. So I'm going to say style. Basically, I'm going to give it some margin vertical value, just to give it some internal spacing. And I'm going to give some flex direction of row. Align items of center. And a gap of 10. So apart from the text input, we have one more, that is the send button. So let us get that from expo icons. Here I'm going to search for send. So we're going to use it from ion icons. So copy the icon family. Ion icons is already copied, I guess. Nope. Yeah, so copy the render component code, and then we're going to paste it right after the text input, that is over here. And we're going to give it a specific color to this, that is 007 FFF. So save the file. So as you can see, we're able to see that coming on the screen. Okay, so now let's increase the height to be 280 instead of 200, or let's give this on press to this particular pressable and see. Yeah, now that's working fine. Okay, so now after that, after the text input, we're gonna design basically the categories, right? So let's come over here. After the view, we're gonna have one more view over here. It's gonna have a text which says choose category, and apart from that, we're gonna have I think we can just remove the view because we are gonna design it in a different way. So let's save the file once, and as you can see, you're able to see the option that is choose category. So below the text, again, I'm going to initialize one more view where we're going to design the three categories that are going to come up, right? So I'm going to initialize view over here, and inside the view, I'm going to have pressable. Basically inside the pressable, I'm going to have the text field. So the first one is going to say work, and let's give the style for the pressable. So border color is going to be this one. So a bit of padding horizontal of 10 and a padding vertical of 4, border width of 1, and we're going to give it a border radius of 25. And for the text, let's see. Okay, so let's pretty much paste this a couple of times. So the second one is going to be for personal, and third one we are going to say it as wish list. So for the view, let's give the style over here. So I'm going to say style. Basically, we're going to give it a flex direction of row, and then align items of center. We're going to give it a gap of 10 and a bit of margin vertical of 10 as well. So let's see how it's looking. Yeah, so as you can see, that's looking better. So now the next step we'll be looking into is we're gonna map over the suggestions that are present. Okay, so before that, let's initialize a text which says some suggestions. Yeah, so I'll just copy down the array, that is the suggestions array over here. Okay, I've just pasted the suggestions array. I'll be sending this in the description link. So basically it's an array of objects which has a unique ID and the to do which you can add into your list, right? So yeah, we are going to map over the suggestions and then we're going to design it. So let's come over here, and below the text, I'm going to initialize my view, and here I'm going to say suggestions dot map. So for every item and then index, I'm going to initialize basically a pressable, and for inside the pressable, I'm going to have the text which is going to show the suggestion. So here I'm going to say item dot to do. I think there is a bracket missing. Yeah, so let's save the file. So as you can see, you're able to see all of the suggestions coming on the screen. So key is going to be index. So let's give the style for the pressable over here. So it's going to have a background color of this color code, so F0, F8, FF, and it's going to have some padding horizontal of 10 and padding vertical as well of 4, and it's going to have a border radius of 25. And for the text, we're going to give it a text align of center. So for the view, let's give the style. So we're going to give it a flex direction of row and align items of center, and we're going to give it a gap of 10 between all of the children, and we're going to say flex wrap of wrap. That means if the place is over for that particular line, come to the next line and take up the space. So flex wrap of wrap, and then margin vertical of 10. So let's save the file and look how it's looking. So as you can see, that's looking better. So we have designed the bottom model. So now the next step is we're going to go and design the endpoints to add a to do for a specific user. So let's head over to the index.js over here, and here I'm going to say app.post So it's going to be / todos / the user ID. It's going to be the async method with the request and the response inside of the callback. So let's initialize our try and then catch block. So catch of error, first of all, I'm going to say result.status of 200.json with basically a message being to do not added or something went wrong. Okay, that's it about the try block, the catch block. So inside the try block we need access to the user ID. So I'm going to say const user ID equals to request dot params dot user ID, and we need access to two things, that is the title of the to do and the category of the to do. This is going to come from the request.body. So I'm going to say const title comma category equals to request.body. So now we're going to create the new to do. So I'm going to say const new to do equals to new, access the to do model that we have imported, and we're going to pass in the required things, that is the title, category, and then the due date as well. So due date. So first of all, let's initialize moment to initialize our due date. So over here I'm going to say yarn add moment. So let's import moment at the top over here. So I'm going to say const moment equals to require of moment, and over here for the due date I'm going to say it's going to be moment dot format to the required value that we want. That's going to be year, month, and then day. So after creating a new to do, we have to save it to the backend. So I'm going to say await new to do. But we have the save method, so I'm going to just apply that over here. Okay, and here I'm going to say, so after saving the to do, first of all we're going to also add the to do's ID to that particular user's to do's array, because we have over here the to do's array. As you can see, we're going to add that particular to do ID into this particular to do's array of that particular user who has created it. So first of all I'm going to say const user equals to await user. We have the find by ID method, so I'm going to apply that. So find by ID of basically the user ID, that is going to come from request.params. Okay, and here I'm going to say if at all there is no user, we're going to send the result. So here I'm going to say result.status of 400 or 404 dot json with a error message saying user is not found. Okay, so if at all we have the user, we are going to say user dot to do's, go into the to do's dot push basically the new to do. To get the ID, it's going to be dot underscore ID. So I'm just going to say dot underscore ID, and here I'm going to say await user dot save. So even this also gets saved into the backend. So basically we are trying to push the ID into to do, so that's why I've written user dot to do's dot push whatever the new to do's ID is, and after that I'm just giving save over here. So after this I'm going to say result dot status of 200 dot json with a message being a to do added successfully. Okay, so that's it, and if you want you can send the data as well over here, that is to do is going to be new to do. Yeah, so basically this is the endpoints to create a to do for a particular user in the backend. So now the next step is we're going to go into the model, and then we're going to initialize the on press event on this particular button, and if at all we add some to do and then choose a category and select press on this, we need to create the to do and then we need to show it on the screen. So now let's go into basically the index.js of the home file, and then first of all let's initialize some state to hold the category. So here I'm going to say const category comma set category equals to use state. So by default, if you do not select any category, it's going to be in all state. Okay, so now let's take the category and set it whenever we press on any one of the category that is present. So over here, I'm going to say on press, it's going to take in a function, and here I'm going to say set category to be of the work, and again just copy the same thing, and then we're going to make the change. Here it's going to be set category to be personal, and this one is going to be for wish list. Alright, so let's save the file, and then let's initialize on click function over here. Sorry, on press function on this particular icon, that is the send icon, that is this one. So here I'm going to say on press equals to add to do. So let's define this function at the top. So I'm going to say const add to do equals to async function. So here basically I'm going to say try and the catch block. So basically catch of error, I'm going to say console.log of error with that particular error message. So over here to add a to do, we need access to two things, the title and the category. So here I'm going to say const to do data equals to an object. The title is going to be to do, that is stored inside of state, and the category is going to be basically category itself. Okay, that is also stored inside of state. So now let's initialize our Axios. So I'm going to say Axios. Okay, let's import it manually. So import Axios from Axios, and over here I'm going to say Axios.post method. So it's going to be http://localhost 3000. So it's going to be /todos and / the user ID. So for now I'm just going to hardcode the user ID because I'm just interested in my profile, and over here in the app also we are not going to use, and we are not going to show also any others profile as well. If you want, you can generate one more endpoint to get the user's ID who's currently logged in, but for now I'm just gonna hardcode the value that is my user profile. So let's copy that out, and then over here I'm going to paste it, and it's going to take in basically the to do data, and after that I'm going to apply the dot then method, and here it's going to give us basically the response. Okay, if you want, you can just console.log the response, whatever is coming. So after the response we're going to catch the error if at all there is any error. So here I'm going to say catch of error, console.log of error with that particular error, whatever is that. So after that, when we initialize the other function in just a bit, that is to get the user to do's, we're going to update it automatically when we press on the send button. So that's why I've written async over here. So for now I'm going to say after the Axios statement, I'm going to just say set the model visible to be false and set the to do also to be empty. We're just going to clear the state, right? So yeah, let's save the file once and let's see everything if it's working. And one more change we have to make is in the bottom modal, if at all we press on any one of the suggestions, we need to include that into the input field as well. So to do that, just we're going to initialize the on press event, and I'm going to say set to do to be item.todo, right? So save the file. So now let's give this a try. So let's press on the first one. So as you can see, it's gone into the input field. So by default, the category is selected as all in the state, as you can see. So now if I press on add, the title is present and the category is present. So if everything is correct, we should be seeing the to do being added into the backend. So let's press on the send button over here. So as you can see, yeah, so the response is generated. So hopefully we should be seeing the to do being added into the to do's list over here. Yeah, so there you go. So we have the title, the status is currently pending, category is all, this is the due date, and this is the created at value. So now if this is working absolutely fine, we're able to create and add to do's. So now the next step is we're going to define few endpoints to fetch the to-dos into this particular home screen. So to do that, let's head over to the index.js of the API folder, and then let's write our endpoint over here. So here I'm going to say app dot, this time it's going to be the get method. So it's going to be /users /user ID, and it's going to be /to-dos. So it's going to be the async method with the request and the response in the callback, and here I'm going to initialize my try and then catch block. So inside the catch block, I'm going to send the result dot JSON with a message being or an error which says something went wrong. Alright, so inside the try block, we need access to the user ID. So I'm going to say const user ID equals to request dot params dot user ID. Okay, just like this. And after that, we're going to find the user ID and populate basically the to-dos array. So here I'm going to say const user equals to await user dot find by, we have the find by ID method. To this we are going to pass in, of course, the user ID, and we're going to populate. We're going to apply the populate method. So populate of basically the to-dos, and we're going to apply the condition over here, that is if at all there is no user present, we're going to send the result. So here I'm going to say return result dot status of 404 dot JSON with error being user is not found, something like this. Okay, so after that we're just going to send the normal result, that is status of 200 dot JSON with the to-dos. It's going to be user dot to-dos. Okay, so that's it. So we have defined the endpoint to fetch all of the user to-dos for that particular user in the home screen. So now let's save the file. So now the next thing we'll be writing is we'll be writing the endpoint to mark the to-do as completed. That is, initially it's in pending state. If at all we press on that icon, it's going to go into the completed state. So again, we're going to apply the app dot, here we're going to apply the patch method. So it's going to be /to-dos /to-do ID, and it's going to be /complete. So here we're going to have the async method with the request and the response in the callback, and we're going to initialize the try and then catch block. So catch of error, basically I'm going to send the result, same thing. I'm just going to copy this and paste it over here. So inside the try block, basically we need access to the to-do ID. So I'm going to say const to-do ID equals to request dot params dot to-do ID. Alright, so now we need to find the to-do ID and then update the status to be completed. So basically we're going to find the to-do by this particular to-do ID. So here I'm going to write const updated to-do equals to await access the to-do model dot, we have the find by ID and update this method, and here we're going to basically update the to-do with the help of the to-do ID. So here we are interested in updating only the status. So status is set to be completed. That's the update we're going to make, and here we're going to say new is going to be true. Okay, I think this should come after the bracket that is over here. So let's format once. Alright, so here we are going to check the condition that if at all there is no updated to do, that means if there is no to do with that particular to do ID, then we are going to return the result.status of 404 dot JSON with a error message which says to do not found. Okay, and here we're going to say result.status of 200 dot JSON with a message being to do marked as complete. So to do is going to be the updated to do. Yeah, so that's it. We have defined two endpoints. One is to fetch the user's to do, and one is to update the to do from from pending state to the completed state when we press on that circle icon. So now the next step is we're going to go into the home screen and then initialize the use effect, and then we're going to call both of the endpoints, and we're going to look into how we can fetch the to do's and how we can mark the to do as complete. So now let's head over to the home screen and then initialize the use effect to fetch and call all of the functions. So over here I'm going to say use effect. So I'm just going to call it one time, and here I'm going to define the function that is get user to do's. So I'm going to define this function over here. So I'm going to say const get user to do's equals to async function. Okay, so here basically I'm gonna initialize my try catch block first. So catch of error. So here I'm gonna say console.log of error with that particular error message. All right, so inside the try block, first of all I'm going to initialize my response. So I'm going to say const response equals to await axios. So let's import axios from axios dot, we are going to use the get method, and here I'm going to pass in the URL that's going to be http localhost 3000 / users, and then I'm just gonna get the user ID. So this is my user ID, and yeah, this is basically the response value. Okay, if you want you can just console.log the response dot data, and to get the to-dos it's going to be dot to-dos because that's what we are sending in the endpoint, right? So yeah, after this we have to initialize the state to hold the to-dos. So I'm just going to remove this. Here I'm going to say const to-dos set to-dos equals to use state, and initially we're going to pass in an empty array because we can have n number of to-dos. User is already imported. Yeah, so over here I'm going to say set the to-dos to be basically response dot data dot to-dos. It's going to be the same thing. Okay, so now we are going to return the to-dos or perform different actions based on the data we need. So basically we need two kinds of data, that is pending to-dos and then the completed to-dos. So basically we are going to categorize the to-dos into pending and then completed based on the status that it is present. Okay, so here I'm going to say const fetched to-dos equals to response dot data dot to-dos, or in the first case it's going to be of course empty, so I'm going to pass in an empty array over here. So now we're going to categorize based on two things, that is whether it is in pending state or it's in the completed state. So I'm going to say const pending equals to fetched to-dos. So we're going to apply the filter method. So for each to-do, the to-do dot status should not be equal to completed. Then of course it automatically goes into the pending state to-dos. We're just writing it in the opposite format, or you can directly access to-do.status equals to pending. That also should work fine. So here I'm going to say to-do.status should not be equal to completed. All right, so this is for the pending to-do. Next one I'm going to say is const completed equals to fetch to-dos. Fetch to-dos dot again apply the filter method to this. So for each to-do, the to do dot status should not be equal to completed. Sorry, should be equals to completed. So this is the condition to get the fetched to-dos. I mean to get the completed to-dos. Okay, so now we are gonna initialize some more state to hold the to-dos. So here I'm gonna say const pending to-dos, comma set pending to-dos equals to use state of again an empty array. After that I'm gonna say const completed to-dos, comma set completed to-dos equals to use state of an empty array again. So let's come down to the function, and after calculating both the values, here I'm going to say set the pending to-dos to be pending, that is whatever values you have got, and set the completed to-dos to be completed. Yeah, so now let's give this a try and let's console.log both the values. So console.log completed is going to be completed to-dos, and console.log pending to-dos is going to be the pending to-dos. So let's save the file and hopefully we should be seeing the correct results. Okay, so let's save the file. Okay, use effect does not exist, so let's import use effect from React. Okay, we have an error which says Axios request failed with status code 404. Okay, here it's correct, so there might be an error in the function that we have written, so let's look into that. Alright, so there is another error that is related to the ID that I've passed. So by mistake I've passed actually the to-do ID instead of passing the user ID. So here I'm gonna just make that change. Okay, so this is the user ID. So let's save the file. And as you can see, as soon as I change the file, we are getting the correct results. So completed is empty array. So pending is the to-do which we have added previously. So with the help of this data, now we're gonna design it. So before that, let's also define the next function, that is to mark the to-do as completed. So here I'm gonna say const mark to do as completed equals to a async function. This is basically going to take in the to do ID and then mark it as complete. So let's initialize our try and then catch block over here. So basically catch of error. Here I'm going to say console.log of error with that particular error message. Okay, so inside the try block, first of all we're gonna include a statement, include a state over here, so that we need to call the function again. So I'm going to say const marked comma set marked equals to use state. Initially it's going to be in the false state, so I'm going to say false. So as soon as we press on that button, circle button, here I'm going to say set marked to be true. Here I'm going to initialize my response now. So I'm going to say const response equals to await. So import Axios is already imported. So Axios dot we use the patch method. So I'm going to say patch. Let's make use of backticks. So http /localhost 3000, and it's going to be /todos / the to do ID. So let's access it like this, not user ID, to do ID, and it's going to be /complete. Okay, if you want you can console.log the response.data. Okay, so that's it. So basically this would mark the to do as complete in the backend. So let's format once and save the file. Yeah, so now let's head over to the conditions where we have put in earlier. So that is over here. So since the todos.length is greater than 0, you are not able to see this particular design, that is second design to add the to do. So now let's map over the pending to dos and then design it on the screen. So inside the view, first of all, I'm going to apply the condition that is if at all pending to dos dot length is greater than 0 and I'm going to design first of all a text attribute over here, which is going to say tasks to do. So as you can see, we have tasks to do over here. Yeah, so here I'm also going to initialize a value that is going to be today. Let's define the today's value at the top over here. So make sure you import moment from moment and save the file. Okay, so tasks to do. Okay, so tasks to do today with that particular date. If you want, you can remove 23 at the last. So just remove this particular year. Yeah, that's looking better. So now let's map over the to-dos and then let's design it out. That's over here. So here I'm going to say pending to-dos dot map. So for each and every item and then index, let's return basically a pressable. So in case if you press on this to do, we are also going to go into the info screen. This was actually not showed in the demo, right? And in the info screen, we're going to design the basic information about to do, that is when it was added, what is the due date, and other kinds of design as well. So inside the pressable, firstly, I'm going to initialize my view over here. So this view in turn is going to contain basically two things, that is the icon, that is circle icon. So let's go get that. Yeah, it's going to be this icon. So import the icon family and let's copy the render component code and we're gonna paste it over here. This is the first thing, and apart from this, we're gonna show, of course, the title of the to do, whatever it is. So to access it, it's gonna be item.title, and finally towards the right part of the container, we're gonna show the flag icon. So let's search for flag, this one. So copy the icon and import the family. We need to import feather. So let's save the file. Yeah, so as you can see, we're able to see that coming on the screen. All right, so let's give the key over here, and also let's decrease the size of the icon to be 18, and for this let's keep it to be 20. Yeah, so now let's give the style for the view. So I'm going to say style over here, basically flex direction of row, align items of center, and we're going to give it a gap of 10. Yeah, that's looking fine. So now we're going to give basically the styling to the text. We want this particular flag icon to be moved to the rightmost direction. So we're going to give it a flex of 1 to the text, so it takes up the entire space. So we're going to say flex of 1. Yeah, so as you can see, it has moved to the rightmost part. So now the next step is we're going to start styling out the pressable over here. So I'm going to say style. So it's going to have a background color of E0, 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 some internal spacing, padding of 10, border radius of 7, and it's going to have a margin vertical as well of 10. Yeah, so as you can see, that's looking better. So now let's also make the design for the next thing, that is the completed to-dos. So here I'm going to say completed to-dos dot length is greater than 0, and we're going to initialize a view for this. So this view in turn is going to have one more view. So this is basically going to contain the image first. So I'm going to get the link for the image over here. So I've just pasted the link for the image. I'll be sending this in the description. You can check that out. I think image is already imported. Yes, it's imported. So yeah, let's give the style for the view. So basically justify content of center, align items of center, and margin of 10. And this is the style for the image, width and height of 100. Yeah, so after the view, we're gonna give one more text that is over here. So this is gonna contain basically a text over here which says completed tasks. Yeah, so after the text, we are gonna have one more icon which says marked or arrow drop down from material icons. So let's import the icon family. And let's copy the render component code and we're gonna paste it over here. Okay, let's give the style for the view over here. So I'm gonna say style. It's gonna have basically a flex direction of row, align items to center, and we're gonna give it a gap of 5, and we're gonna give it a margin vertical of 10. Okay, so yeah, this is the style for the completed tasks. So as you can see, as soon as I save, nothing should be seen in the screen because completed to-dos is empty as of now. So basically after this, I'm just going to copy down the same design over here and then later make the changes that is there for the completed to-dos. So basically after this view, after this view, we're going to enter that over here. So instead of pending to-dos.map, I'm going to say completed to-dos.map. Okay, and for the text over here, we're going to give the style. Apart from flex of 1, we're going to say text decoration line. It is going to be line through. And color of this is going to be gray. This color is also going to be gray. Alright, so now we're going to initialize onPress event on basically the icon that is present over here. That is for the pending to-dos. So that is for the n-typo icon. So here I'm going to say onPress, taking a function, and here I'm going to say mark to do as completed, and this is basically going to be item dot, we're going to pass in the id. So to access the id, it's going to be item dot underscore id. Right, so let's format the document and save the file. And also I want to run this use effect whenever I press on this button, right, because I want to fetch the latest to-dos. So here I'm going to say, so inside this function, if you would notice, we are marking set marked as true, right? So initially set marked as false. So we are changing the value. So as soon as the value changes, I want this use effect to run. So I'm just going to say pass in marked over here. So as soon as the marked value changes from false to true or from true to false, it's going to change again. It's going to run again. That is, it's going to run the user to-dos again. So let's save the file once. And now I'm going to press on the circle icon over here. Okay, so as you can see, as soon as I press on the circle icon, we were able to see the completed tasks being filled up and the same design is obtained over here. And currently the pending is 0 because we have only one to do in the pending state. Okay, so here also we're going to make the change for the icon that should be filled up. So let's search for circle again. So we're going to choose the icon that is filled. That is from Font Awesome. So import that and let's go to the completed part and we're gonna make use of the Font Awesome instead of n-typo. Color is gonna be 18 and let's keep the color to be gray. Make sure you import Font Awesome over here if it's not imported. Yeah, it's not imported, so let's import Font Awesome. Yeah, so as you can see, that's looking better. So now another change that I'm going to make is, if at all I press on add to do and then select some to do and then press on the send button, I want the immediate effect to take place. That is, I want the updated to do to be seen over here. So to do that, since again now the model state is changing, that is from false to true. Okay, if at all we press on the send button, I want that also to be run again. That is the get user to do's. So apart from marked over here, I'm going to pass in one more state that is going to be is model visible. Okay, by doing this, we would be seeing whatever to do is being added over here, right? So save the file and I'm going to add one more to do. Let's say take pill reminder and I'm not going to choose a category. I'm going to pass it as all itself. I'm going to press send. So as soon as I do this, the state has changed, is model visible. Okay, currently it's true, I guess. It's going to go into false. So again, this is going to get triggered off, that is get user to dos, and again we should fetch the latest to dos. So let's give that a try. Okay, that seems to not work. Okay, we are not able to see the updated to do over here. I think we could do one more thing. Over here we can actually call it here itself. That is, here I'm going to say await get user to dos. So format once. Yeah, now it's coming because we have saved the file. Let's add one more to do over here. Let's say finish assignments and then enter. Yeah, so now it's working absolutely fine. All right, so yeah, we have completed designing the first screen, that is the home screen. Everything is working absolutely fine. We're able to add the to-do in the backend of that particular users, and we are also able to mark the to-do as complete, and here we are able to see the completed tasks. Okay, so if you want to check out the users over here, so inside of the to-dos array, if I refresh once, you should be seeing the to-do ID that is being added over here. So you should be seeing three values. As you can see, these are the three to-do IDs added into the user. That means this is the user that has created the three to-dos currently. So that is working absolutely fine. So now the next step is we're going to go into the next part, that is calendar tab, and then we're going to fetch the completed tasks for that particular day. So firstly, let's head over to the calendar.js, index.js of the calendar route, and here firstly we're going to design the calendar. So to design the calendar, we'll be making use of a dependency actually. So let's install that. So I'm going to go to the terminal and I'm going to say yarn add React Native calendars. So React Native calendars. Let's press and enter. Okay, so that is installed. So let's first of all initialize some state required. So here I'm going to say const selected date comma set selected date equals to use state so it's going to be of today. We're going to define today in just a bit. So here let's import use state. So over here I'm going to say const today equals to moment. Let's import moment from moment, and we're going to format it into this particular value. So I'm going to say dot format. It's going to be year, and then month, then day. Okay, so here we're just going to render the calendar. Automatically it's going to show up on the screen. So I'm going to say calendar over here, import that from React Native calendars just like this, and there is a method known as onDayPress. So it's going to take in a function which is going to have the day, and here I'm going to say set the selected date to be day dot date string. So if you want, you can just console.log the day, and to get the correct value it's going to be this one, that is day dot day string. So let's save the file once. So let's go to the calendar. So as you can see, you're able to see that calendar. So for the view, let's give it a background color of white. So basically I'm going to say flex of 1 and then background color of white. Okay, so yeah, as you can see, that's looking better. So now the next step is we're going to define few endpoints required. So let's head over to the index.js. We're going to define two endpoints that is required in the profile screen as well in the next part, and one is to fetch all of the completed tasks for that particular date. So first one, I'm going to say app.get. It's going to be /todos /completed and / it's going to be with that particular date which is selected. That's going to be dynamic. So async with the request and the response in the callback. So first of all, I'm going to initialize my try and then catch block. So catch of error, I'm going to send the result first, that is result.status of 500 .json with a error message which says something went wrong, or something you can write as, or you can write it as network error. So inside the try block, first of all, I'm going to access the date first. So I'm going to say const date equals to request dot params dot date. And after this, we're going to find the to-dos with the status completed for that particular specified date. So I'm going to say const completed to-dos equals to await to do dot, we're going to apply the find method basically over here. So status should be completed because we are fetching the completed to-dos, and here based on the created at value, we are going to fetch the completed to-dos. So here we'll be making use of two operators, that is greater than, that is GT operator, and the next one is the lesser than, that is LT operator. So this is going to be the required value, that is greater than is going to be this new date of whatever is the date that is currently selected, and this is going to be the lesser than value. So based on this, we're going to fetch the to-dos and then we're going to send it in the result dot status. So here I'm going to say result dot status of, let's say, 200 dot JSON, and here we're going to send the completed to-dos. All right, so I think we have to execute the function, so I'm going to say dot exec over here. Okay, so that's it. So now the next thing is we're going to calculate the total number of pending to-dos and total number of completed to-dos, which will be used in the account page or the profile page. So here I'm going to say app.get, so it's going to be / to-dos / count. It's going to be an async method with the request and the response. So here let me initialize my try and then catch block. So catch of error, first of all, I'm going to say result dot status of 500 dot JSON with a message being or error, it says network error, something like this. And inside the try block, I'm going to say const total completed to-dos equals to await to do dot, we have count document methods. I'm going to say count documents, and we're going to apply the condition, that is status should be completed, count only these documents, completed dot exec. Okay, so this is basically the variable here we are going to use to count the total number of completed to-dos over here. Here I'm going to say const total pending tasks or total pending to-dos. So pending to-dos equals to await, we're going to access the to-do model, to-do dot count documents. Okay, here again I'm going to write the condition, the status is going to be pending in this case. So here we are trying to say fetch all of the documents whose status is pending for that particular to do dot exec again, and basically we're just going to send this in the result. So result dot status of 200 dot JSON with basically a message, or basically we're going to send both the values as is, that is total completed to-dos, and then we're going to send total pending to-dos as well. Yeah, so that's it. These are the two endpoints required now. So now let's head back to the calendar.js, and then we're going to start defining and styling out the remaining thing. First of all, we're going to initialize use effect and then call the function required. So here I'm going to initialize my use effect, and here I'm going to give the function that is fetch completed to-dos. So let's define this function over here. So I'm going to say const fetch completed to-dos equals to async function. Okay, so here I'm going to initialize my try catch block, so catch of error, and here I'm going to say console.log of error with that particular error message. So inside the try block, I'm going to initialize my response. So const response equals to await axios. So we're going to make use of the get method, and this is going to be the URL. So I'm going to say http localhost 3000 /todos /completed and then / the selected date. Okay, so this is going to be the to-dos, and here I'm going to say const completed to-dos equals to response dot data dot, we have the completed to-dos that is coming from the endpoint, or it's going to be an empty array at the initial state. So let's define the state to hold the to-dos. So I'm going to say const to-dos comma set to-dos equals to use state, and it's going to be an empty array the initial state. Let's also import use effect over here, and here I'm going to say set the to-dos to be of the completed to-dos. Yep, so that's it. Format once, and let's console.log the to-dos if at all we are getting it correctly. So console.log of to-dos. Use effect has already been declared. Let's remove this. So as you can see in the log, it's completely empty because there are no completed tasks for today, right? And I want this function to run again when the selected date changes. So I'm gonna say selected date over here. So I think we have completed this task on the 20th or the 21st. So let's check that out. So I'm gonna save the file over here, and let's come back over here, and I'm gonna select on 21st. So as you can see, we have 21st date selected and we have the log being shown. And one more thing is, if at all we select any date over here, we're just gonna make the change such that this particular date is currently selected. So instead of writing it like this, we're just gonna initialize the on press, and then we're gonna select the marked dates over here. So inside the on press over here, I'm gonna say const handle day press equals to an arrow function. Here I'm gonna say set the selected dates to be a day dot. Let's access the day over here as well. It's gonna be date string. Yeah, so let's save the file. So as you can see, currently 23rd is selected. So if I select 21st, yeah, even the background color is changing, and over here we're able to see the log. So now I'm just going to copy down the same piece of design that we had used earlier in the home screen. So let's give it some margin top of 20. Okay, so I'm just going to go to my home screen over here, and we're going to copy the design of the completed to-dos. That is this one. And I'm going to paste it over here. So instead of completed, it's going to be just to-dos in our case, because that is what the state is named as. Let's import pressable from React Native, and let's import the font awesome icon as well. So copy this out, and this is going to be the font awesome icon. And let's look for any other change. Yeah, we also need the feather icon. Yep, I think that's it. So let's save the file. Yeah, so as you can see, for 23rd there is nothing. So for 21st, as you can see, we're able to see that come on the screen. Okay, so yep, for this let's give some margin horizontal as well of, let's say, 12. Okay, and we also need that completed tasks. Okay, that text design. So let us get that as well. Yeah, it's going to be this piece of view. Yeah, let's import material icons as well over here. save the file, and let's give it some margin horizontal. So margin horizontal of 10. This also let's give it 10 instead of. Yeah, so now we should be seeing the correct results, right? So currently it's empty for 23rd. For 21st, it's gonna show up the completed tasks for that particular day. Alright, so we have finished designing basically the second tab as well, that is the calendar tab. It's gonna show us the correct completed tasks for the chosen date in the calendar. So now let's move on to the next tab, that is the profile tab, where we'll be basically showing the line chart, and we'll be showing basically the total number of completed tasks and then total number of pending tasks. So let's start designing the profile tab, profile screen basically. So now let's start designing the profile screen. So firstly, I'm going to initialize some required states in this particular screen. So I'm going to say const completed tasks, comma set completed tasks equals to use state, and it's going to be initially 0. And here I'm going to say const pending tasks, comma set pending tasks equals to use state. This also is going to be 0 at the initial state. Okay, so let's import use state from React. Alright, so over here I'm gonna initialize my function, that is const fetch task counts or task data equals to async function. So here first of all let's initialize our try and then catch block. So catch if error, let's console.log of the error. Alright, so here inside the try block I'm going to initialize my response first. So const response equals to wait axios. So let's import axios. So here I'm going to say await axios dot, with the help of get method, I'm going to say http /localhost /3000 todos, and then we go into the count. So here I'm going to destructure the value, that is basically two things, that is total completed tasks and then the total pending tasks. So let's get the required values over here. So I'm going to just write it like this, that is const destructure two things, total completed tasks and then total pending tasks is going to be equal to response.data. So after that I'm going to say set completed tasks to be total completed tasks and set pending tasks to be total pending tasks. Okay, so that's it. So now we're going to call this inside of an use effect. So here I'm going to say use effect. Make sure we import use effect from React, just like this, and let's console.log the two values. So completed should be 1 and pending should be 2. So over here I'm going to say completed is going to be completed tasks, and pending should be pending tasks. So let's save the file. Okay, from axios in double quotes. Okay, again we have an error, a request failed with status code 404. Okay, let's look into where we have gone wrong. Okay, I think count spelling is wrong. I've written count. Okay, we are getting completed as undefined. Even for this also we are getting it as undefined for pending as well. I think the issue is with the naming thing. So I've just named it differently. That is, I've just copied down the same name that I've passed it over here. That is inside of the index file. That is total completed to-dos. So we have to access the same name while restructuring it, not some other different name, right? So yeah, let's make that change. That is, so the first one is going to be total completed to-dos, and the second one is going to be total pending tasks. So yeah, now we are going to get the correct values. So as you can see, completed is 1, pending is 2. So now let's start designing the profile screen inside of the return block. So first of all, in the main view over here, I'm going to give the style. It's going to have some internal spacing, a padding of 10, and it's going to have a flex of 1, and it's going to have a background color of white. Okay, so as you can see, that's looking better. So now here I'm going to initialize my view. Inside this view, I'm going to get the image. So you can pretty much copy your own profile image. Okay, after that, we're going to have a view over here, which is going to have 2 pieces of text. It says keep plans for 15 days. And here we're going to say select the categories. So select categories. So let's give the style for first of all the outermost view over here. So I'm going to say style. We're going to give it a flex direction of row. So flex direction of row, align items of center, and we're going to give it a gap of 10. And for this view, it's gonna remain as is except for the styling of the text. So here I'm going to say style, font size of 16, and it's going to have a font weight of 600. So for the second part of the text, I'm going to say style. It's going to have a font size of 15, and it's going to have a color of gray, and basically a slight margin top of 4. So yeah, let's give this a try. Save the file. Okay, so as you can see, the top part has been designed properly. So now after that, we're going to design basically this particular tasks, the total number of pending tasks and the completed tasks. So here I'm going to initialize one more view. So let's give some styling, that is basically spacing. So I'm going to say margin vertical of 12. This is going to have a text which says tasks overview. So let's initialize a view over here. So this view in turn is going to have another view which is going to have a text which says, which is going to show basically the completed tasks, and below that we're just going to hard code the value which says completed tasks. Okay, so I'm just going to copy down this view one more time. So this is going to say pending tasks, and this also is going to be hard coded which says pending tasks. Alright, so now we're going to give style for basically this view. So I'm going to say style over here. So it's going to have basically a flex direction of row, align items of center, and it's going to have a slight gap between the two children, gap of 6, and a margin vertical of 8. And for this particular view, we're going to give the style. So style is going to be background color of this color code, that is 89CFF0. And it's going to have some internal spacing, that is padding of 10, and a border radius as well. So border radius of 8, and I'm going to give it a flex of 1 because I wanted to take equal space of the screen width. And justify content of center, and align items to center as well. Alright, so now I'm just going to give the same piece of styling for the second view as well. It's going to be similar. And for the text here, I'm going to say style. It's going to have basically a text align of center, and it's going to have a font size of 16, and it's going to have a font weight of bold. So copy this down. It's going to be the same thing for the second text as well over here. Format once, and let's save the file. Let's go to the third tab. Yeah, so as you can see, completed tasks is 1, pending tasks are 2 over here. Alright, so now let's give some margin top to this. Yeah, so as you can see, that's looking better. So now the next thing we'll be looking into is we're going to basically design the line chart. So for that, we're going to install the dependency. So I'm going to come to the terminal, and here I'm going to say yarn add React Native chart kit. So let's install this. So now I'm just going to paste the code for the line chart. You would get it in the official docs as well. Alright guys, I've just pasted the code for the line chart. You can import that from React Native chart kit like this, and I've given n number of options to this, specifically the data which is of course required over here. And in the data sets, we're going to pass in an array and we're going to pass in the data. So basically we are mapping between two things, that is pending tasks and then the completed tasks. So apart from that, we have given different attributes like width and height and the y-axis interval and the chart configuration, which is basically going to contain your background color and all the different styles required to design that. And for the style, I've given a border radius of 16. So this is basically the code for the line chart. So you can look into it from the start again. So let's save the file. Let's reload the app once more. Okay, I'm just going to cut the server and then start the app once again. Okay, so as soon as I started the app, we have one more error which says we are unable to resolve React Native SVG. So let's go ahead and install that as well. So I'm going to say yarn add React Native SVG. Alright, so let's install this one. Okay, so let's go to the third tab. Okay, dimensions does not exist, so let's import dimensions from React Native. So as you can see, we are able to see the correct line chart being drawn based on the pending task. So pending task is 2, completed task is just 1. So we are able to see the correct line diagram being shown for our particular user, right? So now after that, we're just gonna design one more piece of statement, that is over here. You're gonna say view. Here it's gonna have a text which says tasks for the next 7 days. Let's give the design for the view over here. So I'm gonna say style, background color. So it's gonna be the same thing, and some internal spacing. So padding of 10. And border radius of 7 as well, and a margin top of 10. So for the text, we're just going to give text align of center. Okay, that's looking better. Let's give margin top to be 15 and let's keep the color to be white. Alright, so now we have just one final design that's going to come up over here. That is basically the image itself. So I'm just going to copy down the image. So I've just pasted the code for the image. You can just copy that down. I'll be sending the link in the description as well. So as you can see, that's basically the image. Let's keep it to be 20. So I think that's it about the final tab, that is profile tab. We have completely designed it as per the demo video. So now the only step that is pending is, if at all I press on any one of the to do, it should take me to the to do info screen, and then we have to design that. So first of all, I'm going to create a new screen inside of my home tab. That's going to be info.js. Okay, so I'm going to say rnfes to get the shorthand snippet. So now let's start designing the info screen. So before that, let's initialize the onPress event on basically this pressable where we have, that is this one, right? So if you press on this, you should be navigating to the next screen, and we're going to pass some information as well. So here for the pressable, I'm going to say onPress router.push. The path name is going to be /home/info, and I'm going to pass some information that is in the form of params. So first of all, let's initialize our router over here. So I'm going to say const router equals to use router. So yeah, use router is imported. So now let's give this a try. So if I press on basically any one of the to do that is in pending, it should go to the category page with this information, that is ID, title, category, created at, and the due date. So as you can see, we are coming correctly to the info screen. So let's start designing the info screen. So first of all, let's give some basic styling to the outermost view over here. So it's going to have a flex of 1, a background color of white and some internal spacing, that is padding of 10. So view, inside this we're going to have basically the back icon, so let's get that. That is this one. So copy the render component code and we're gonna paste it over here. So after that we need one more icon that is gonna come towards the rightmost part, that is the dot icon. So let's give basically the style for the view over here. So I'm going to say style. It's going to have flex direction of row, align items of center, and justify content of space between. And basically, yeah, that's it. So now let's save the file. Yeah, so as you can see, you're able to see both the icons are coming on the screen. So now after that, we are going to show basically the category that is selected. So I'm going to say view over here. Here I'm going to say text, which says category is going to be, first of all, let's initialize our params. So I'm going to say const params equals to use local search params. Import that from React, expo router. And here to access the category, it's going to be params dot category. Okay, so let's give the style for this. So here I'm going to say style, font size of 15, and then font weight of 500. So as you can see, that's looking better. And for this, let's give some margin top. So here I'm going to say margin top of 5. So after this, we're going to give basically a margin top of 50 in a self-enclosing view. So I'm going to say style. So this is going to have a margin top of 50. So below this, we're going to show the pressable. Okay, so I'm going to say pressable. This is basically going to contain a text which says add a subtask. So save the file. Okay, I think we forgot to write the title over here. That's going to come here. So I'm going to say text over here. So to access the title, it's going to be params dot title. Let's give the style for this. So I'm going to say style, margin top of 20, and it's going to have a font size of 17. And it's going to have basically a font weight of 600, just like this. So let's save the file. Yeah, so as you can see, this is the category is all, and this is the category name. So for the pressable over here, let's give the design. So this should have one more icon over here, that is, it's going to have a plus icon. So let's get the plus icon. So I'm going to search for plus from and design. So import the icon family. So I'm going to paste it over here. So for the pressable, I'm going to give the design. So I'm going to say style, a flex direction of row, and then align items of center, a gap of 5 between the two children. Alright, so now that's it. Let's just change the color of the icon. So it's going to be 7CB 9E8. So the same color I'm going to give for this as well. Alright, yeah, that's looking fine. If you want, you can increase the font size for this, that is, you can keep it to be 16. Okay, that's looking fine. So now I'm going to initialize the view over here. This in turn is going to have a basic margin top. So I'm going to say margin top of 10. Okay, so inside this view we're going to have different kinds of designs coming up. So I'm going to say view over here. This in turn is going to have one more view. So here we're going to basically have the calendar icon. So I'm going to get the calendar icon, this one, and apart from the calendar icon it's going to have one more text which says due date. Let's import and design. It's already imported, so let's save the file. Alright, so now for this view I'm going to give the style. So I'm going to say style over here. So it's going to have flex direction of row, align items of center, and justify content of space between. So for this view I'm going to give the style again. I'm going to copy down the same piece of styling until here, and I'm going to give it a gap of 7. Yeah, so that's looking fine. So I think we could give a margin top to this as well, or over here let's keep it to be 15. Yeah, 15 looks good. So let's format once, and towards the rightmost part we're going to basically show the design, that is the original due date. So here I'm going to say pressable, initialize a text. So to access the due date it's going to be params.due date. So now let's give the style for the pressable. So it's going to have a background color of this color code, and it's going to have some internal spacing, that is padding of 7, and a border radius as well. So border radius of 7 or 6. Okay, so as you can see that is looking good. It's going to come over here towards the rightmost part, and if you want you can actually change the background color to be this as well. So let us change that and see how it's looking. That is this color code, the light blue color. Yeah, or even this is looking good. Okay, as you can choose any one. So after that again I'm going to initialize this particular view, save the file. Yeah, so after due date it's going to be time and reminder. So let's make the change for that. So I'm going to say time and reminder, and we're going to make use of the time sharp icon. So let's search for time sharp from iron icons. Iron icons is already imported, so I'm going to paste it over here. We can make the color to be gray. Here I'm going to say no for this. Okay, so after this time and reminder we have the next thing that is known as repeat task. So copy this down and paste it over here. I think there is a mismatch while copying. Yeah, so this is going to say repeat task. So I'm going to say repeat task, and the icon is going to be repeat. This one. So copy the icon. We need to import feather, save the file, and for the next one we're going to say is the notes. That's the notes attribute coming. So let us copy this, and I'm gonna not this one. Yeah, so here we're gonna say notes, and here it's gonna be not added. So we're gonna get the note icon. And that is from this one, simple line icons. So let's import the icon family first, and then we're going to copy the render component code and we're going to paste it inside of the instead of this particular one feather. Okay, so as you can see, that's looking better. Let's decrease the size to be 20. No, 24 is better. So yeah, that's looking good. So I think that's it about the design of basically the info screen for each to-do that is present. Okay, so I think that's it about this project. We have designed everything that we have thought in the demo video, right? That is the starting point of the video. So we could add to-dos, we could mark the to-dos is complete, and the second tab, based on the calendar that we have and based on the date that we select, we can show the completed tasks for that particular date. And finally, in the profile or the account tab, we are showing the line chart between the completed tasks and the pending tasks, and we are showing the information regarding the total completed tasks and the total number of pending tasks. So I think that's it about this project. So let's see in the next project, and then thank you for watching.